My name is Adrienne Kerr. I'm the commercial fiction editor at Penguin Group Canada. Today we're in our Toronto offices with author Keith Ross-Leckie, author of Coppermine. Keith, can you tell me about Coppermine? What's it about?
My novel Coppermine was inspired by a story concerning two Inuit hunters, Sinisniak and Uluksuk. This began in 1913. Sinisniak and Uluksuk were part of the Copper Inuit band, and they were extremely isolated, probably the most isolated people in all of the Americas at this time. And they encountered two priests, Catholic priests, that had come north to try to make contact with the Copper Inuit and to convert them to Christianity. They had never seen white men before, and Sinisniak and Uluksuk were rather alarmed, and after a certain period of time they decided that they were either demons or possessed of demons, these human creatures, and so they killed them. They slit their throats and ate their livers, and then they carried on about their business. Two and a half years later, a Northwest Mounted Police officer came up to investigate what happened to the priests, finds out that they were killed, and through an interpreter, he goes to different bands and finds out that Sinisniak and Uluksuk were the ones that had killed the priests. So he confronts them, he questions them, they readily admit, yes, we met the priests and yes, we killed them and ate their livers. He says, well, I'm going to have to take you to Edmonton to stand trial. And they agree to that. There were journalists from all over North America and England, and there were 18 postgraduate law students from Harvard University that came to study this case. It was huge. The defense, Walbridge, came up with a brilliant defense, which was, we need a jury of your peers, a jury of their peers, if Canadian law is to be satisfied. So he appealed to the jury, which were all prominent businessmen at the time, appealed to them and said, you must think like an Eskimo. You must imagine yourself in a world surrounded by spirits, good and bad. You must imagine how you would have felt to see white men that you'd never seen before and how you would respond. And the jury found them not guilty by reason of self-defense. And these men became celebrities.
Hearing you describe the trial, it makes it sound as if the trial of the century took place in the second decade of that century in 1917.
Well, it was huge. It was a very important trial. It was the first time that an Inuit had been tried by a full court with a jury. Should we be sensitive to the feelings and the values and the society, the spiritual beliefs of Indigenous people, or should we stick to a very rigid interpretation of the law?
I want to talk about Angituk. Angituk is a character who bridges two worlds. Angituk is half Coppermine Inuit and half white, and acts as a kind of peacemaker and literal translator at the trial. And Angituk is actually the quiet heart of the novel, but I don't think Angituk is based on a true life person. Is that right?
Angituk is very much based on a true character. His name was Patsy Klingberg, and he was the son of a Danish trader who was in the Mackenzie Delta and a Copper Inuit woman who had Patsy, and Patsy had a foot really in both worlds. He became pivotal in the trial in that the translator of Copper that they had, Ilyevik, was an older man, and he was not as fluid. And so the translations went on and on and on, and finally the trial was taking so long that they asked Patsy to come in and be the interpreter. Mm-hmm. And suddenly the interpretation was lively, and he understood the nuance of both languages and the humor, the sense of humor, and suddenly the trial became very interesting.
Coppermine is divided into two sections. The first is the tracking and the bringing back of the Inuit hunters to Edmonton, and the second part of the novel is the trial and the conclusion to that. And I believe that you used actual court transcripts in your recounting of the trial, and I have to say that Scott Turow couldn't write better, opening and closing arguments.
Well, thank you. That's a compliment. I've written a lot of trial sequences in films, especially in the States, and I enjoy trials because there are these wonderful contained environments where almost anything can happen, but it's very intense. It's naturally intense and dramatic and full of conflict, and so I love trial sequences, which also attracted me to this story. And so in Canada, what we did was, rather than go in and annihilate the Copper Inuit, we sent 1 or 2 Northwest Mounted Police officers in to do a very sophisticated investigation, to question people, to put together witness statements, to find the perpetrators, the killers, and to arrest them and bring them back for a full trial. I think it's the essential Canadian story in that this is how we operate. It's order and good government. Law, order, and good government is what we prize. And I love the trouble that we go to deal with Sinizhniak and Inuksuk. It's just so charmingly Canadian.